Hey guys, how are you doing today? Today we're going to be continuing with our story, Mission to Impossible, and we're going to be looking at the main ideas and details from the article. So today our agenda is that you'll be working on the bell ringer question, along with the author's craft, which is also on page 449 of your textbook. And then we're going to be working on the central idea, which is also the main idea. And then you'll have a document with 5 questions that you are going to be answering based on the lesson today. And then we'll go over the chapter 3, I Survived, which is assigned for this week. I realized that I forgot to explain that yesterday. So, author's craft and central idea. We know that the central idea is the most important point in a text. Sometimes the central idea is stated directly, but more often it is implied or suggested. Often a central idea is implied. The reader must make the inferences to identify it. An inference is a logical conclusion that you develop about information that is not directly stated. So a lot of times they're not directly going to say, and the main idea of the article is. They're going to give you details so that you can make your own inference about what the main idea is. To make the inference about a central idea, you need to combine your prior knowledge, or what you already know, with the key details that the author provides. Remember that the details in the text are not equal, and the key details are the ones that support or tell more about the central idea. So, when you're trying to identify the key details, here are some guidelines to kind of help you. You want to make sure that the key details are often reveal the topic or subject of the text. Key details are sometimes repeated and restated throughout the text in different ways or in different words. Key details are related to other details, so they might reference back to it. And together, those key details support the central idea. So, as you make inferences to determine the central idea of the text, ask yourself the question about the details the author included, such as why did the author include this detail? Does this detail help the readers understand the central idea? And how does this detail support the central idea? So, we're going to go through an example here together before you guys work on an example on your own. So this is following the chart that is on page 449. They're asking us to use details from each of these paragraphs to see if we can come up with the main idea of each paragraph. Once we have the main idea of each paragraph, we should be able to identify what the main idea of the entire article is. So in paragraph 5, it is saying that the US has long dreamed of sending astronauts to Mars. The biggest problem with reaching this goal is simply the human body. We are designed for Earth. In space, bones get brittle, eyeballs lose their shape, hearts beat less effectively, and balance goes airy. There's quite a bit of data on the human health for 6 months in orbit, says the space station program manager, Mike. Do things change at 1 year? So based on those details about the human body, scientists want to study, or the main idea of that paragraph is that scientists want to study more about the effects of 1 year has in space travel on the human body. We know what happens after 6 months, but then the details kind of ask that question of what happens after 1 year. So that kind of gives us that main idea. In paragraph 7, it says that Scott's days in the ISS will be packed with science experiments, exercise, and monitoring and fixing the station's systems. The station is stocked with movies and books, and the crew can surf the internet. So here we have to kind of relate it back to those important details. We probably know that the fact that the station is stocked with movies and books is probably not the main idea of that paragraph, but that his days are packed with that science experiments. So we know that he'll be active with a lot of the experiments that he is doing and that he's going to be communicating his findings back to Earth. So it doesn't tell us that directly, but that's what we can infer. In paragraph 8, it says, on this flight, Scott and Korniko will be very closely monitored with medical and physiological tests. Mark will undergo similar studies on the ground. Scientists hope that comparing the data will shed light on the impact of spending a long time in space. So we know that both Scott and Mark are completing the similar tasks, but one is up in space and one is down on the ground. So we can use the main idea of that paragraph to show that they're going to compare what Mark is doing on Earth to what Scott is doing up in space. And then they're going to be comparing those effects. Now, based on these 3 paragraphs, we could come up with the main idea of Mission to Impossible. Okay, we're not going to go over quite this question because you guys will have the same question in your homework for today. So the author's craft central ideas. What you're going to be doing for your worksheet is it's going to look very similar to what we just did. At the top of your page, there's just going to be a little bit more detail again about that central idea that I talked about at the beginning of the video. And then you're going to be answering the questions below about the scientific paragraphs. So you're going to be reading paragraphs 3, 4, and 5, along with 6 and 8 to come up with the main idea of the article. Now, for this, you are going to have to explain. So that means that you might have to write a couple sentences for your answers. And then question number 5 is your essential question. What has this article taught you about why people are driven to explore? And make sure that you are explaining why. So it's going to be more than one sentence. So then once you are done with that, you can turn that in. And then the other thing that you can be working on today is your I Survived Chapter 3. So our first paragraph was about where you were when you found out about the coronavirus. Chapter 2 was about when you heard about school being closed. Chapter 3 is about the community. So kind of reflect on what is open in your neighborhood and city, what is closed, what are some of the items that your family needs that may not be immediately available to purchase, what does your neighborhood look like right now? Are there people out walking around more? Are there people playing in the yards? Or are people staying inside? And then from what you've seen, so through your parents, your friends, your neighbors, kind of what is their morale? So are they kind of irritated? Are they sad about the situation? Excited? Confused? Pessimistic, which is kind of seeing the worst of the situation? Or are they optimistic, where they're seeing the best of the situation? So you can kind of use some of those things to explain Chapter 3. Then, again, this is stuff that you can be working on throughout the week. It does not have to all be completed today. And then for your I Survived, make sure that you are using the same document that you have already created. You don't need to create a new one. So if you have any questions, please let me know. But today, again, your agenda is the bell ringer, the author's craft, and then to be working on your Chapter 3, I Survived. And that information is also posted in yesterday's Google Classroom. So have a good day, and we will see you guys later.